Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced, and this game is going to be a very epic game. Here with the white pieces we have the current reigning world champion. This is Gukesh, and with the black pieces we have his Indian counterpart. We have Vidit Gujrathi, and this is going to be one epic matchup. I'm going to be covering a lot of his games, almost all of his games from the candidates, and all the amazing games from the candidates as well. So let's see how he became the current reigning world champion that he is. And with the white pieces, this is the first game actually. He's playing with the white pieces and he goes for d4, and we have d5, c4 and e6. So basically Queen's Gambit declined, and what most likely I'll do is basically I'll create a playlist, and as I've done for the Olympiad, I've covered all of his games. I've covered Divya's games. I'm going to be covering Arjun's games. This is going to be another saga. This is going to be the candidate saga, and we'll be actually continuing with this until we get the World Cup. So obviously the World Cup is like a month away, so we're going to have a lot of time on our hands. So this is going to be a nice actually learning experience to be able to analyze all of these games. It's going to be really good. Here just knight to c3. We have c5 now, going for the Tarrasch defense, and we have e3, knight to f6, and just knight to f3. You could also go for a move like c caps on d5, e captures, knight to f3, c4 now, but after bishop to d2, a6, and most likely a4 in this position to not allow b5, and most likely bishop to f5, b3. Now c captures, it seems like black has a lot of space, but the thing is that black is like a little bit passive on development. Also that pawn is hanging, so you're gonna have to play a passive move. Most likely it's gonna take you 2 to 3 tempos to be able to castle and get your pieces on, or also most likely white is the one who's going to be pushing him. So here after this, knight to f6, knight to f3 was played, but that is with best defense and maybe a little bit of decency. Here after knight to c6 we have a3, a6, but just d captures, and here bishop captures by Vidit. Now just comes b4 by Gukesh, pushing the bishop all the way back. Bishop to d6, now rook to a2. Just a very nice move in this position to get the rook wherever it's required for attacking purposes. Here just knight to e5, rook to d2 now, and just knight caps on f3. So g captures, not capturing with the queen. Very interesting, because here you want to attack, so you want to get the rook here, and what you want to do here is rook is already on d file, rook is going to be on the open g file. If you castle in this position, it's going to be really devastating, and I think Gukesh is absolutely fine with keeping his king still in the center. So this is going to be a very dangerous move if here in this position Vidit decides to castle, but he does go for castles. Definitely playing with fire here, bishop to b2, but now just comes this a5, and you can see once this bishop pair gets here, it's going to be the bishop pair will be completely operational with the rook here joining in, and all of these pieces are going to wreak havoc on the board. And you could go for a move like c5 in this position, pushing the bishop back, and once the bishop goes back you play b5, pushing it all the way back. But after this, queen to e7, rook to g1, and queen caps on c5, now you play knight captures, which is a very nice move in this position, because here e captures, and you have to understand I'm winning the knight back with this. But even if you go for a move like rook caps on d5, you can just go for a move like this, because here once the queen has to move, so queen moves, queen to a1, and now here after this g6, now bishop captures. So all in all, it could be a draw, but here still the position is very amazing for white. White is a pawn up and most likely would be winning this game, and as long as you're able to keep this thing closed, because if there's any counterplay towards the queen side, your king side becomes very weak, and yeah, other than that your position is absolutely fine. But here after a5 we have c caps on d5, and after this e5 now, not capturing back, because you know that this rook is eyeing a lot of those squares, so just knight to b5, a captures, now knight captures on d6 first, queen captures, a caps on b4, and I mean, if you want to you could, and that's exactly what was played. But the trouble of it all is here just queen caps on b4 was played, but just queen to c2. And now in this position, what do? If you go for a move like rook to e8 in this position, which seems like a decent move, the trouble is here after bishop to c3, queen to h4 now, just moving the queen towards that. But yeah, the bishop is going to be jumping in, but how do you tackle that? The king is still in the center. The king is not going to be castling anytime soon. Rook can get into the game. Yes, you might be able to gobble a few more pawns, and black is the one to be preferred here in this position. But after like bishop to b5 attacking the rook, bishop to d7 first, now you trade queen to f5, and white will be able to create some counter chances here, even if you go back trying to attack this piece. But you play queen caps on d7 without any worry in the world, queen caps on c3, and queen to b5. Yes, this can be allowed, but once the king moves, the thing is you cannot capture this, because queen is already eyeing this rook, and that would be checkmate. So you have to be a little bit careful along that side as well. But after queen to c2 we have bishop to g4 now, and bishop to g4 is a very crazy move, because now the thing is that with bishop to g4, what Vidit is asking for in this position is asking for a draw with the black pieces. And here Gukesh agrees, he goes for bishop to c3, and both players here go for a repetition. And don't worry, I won't leave you hanging here. I will show you one more game that that happened with the Tarrasch. So you're gonna absolutely learn the Tarrasch in a complete sense, and you can utilize in your games as well. But what I'll do is basically I won't tell you the names of the players. That I'll reveal after the game. So you're gonna have to stay for the game, the entire thing. But yeah, I mean you can just fast forward it to the end as well. But the thing is that this game is gonna be absolutely helpful if you want to learn the Tarrasch, because this game was actually played by players of the highest order in 1969. That's as much as I can reveal. So let's see how that went on. Here with c4 we have e6, d4. Now just going for this. So let me show you this amazing Tarrasch game that happened in 1969. Hey, just c4, e6, d4, d5, and just knight to c3, and just c5, going for the Tarrasch defense. C captures, e captures, knight to f3, knight to c6, and just g3, knight to f6 now, but just bishop to g2. And yes, you could go for c captures, knight captures, and bishop to c5, but you have to understand that once the knight moves back, bishop is going to go back, like, knight to b3, bishop to b6. But the thing is that you're going to be left with an isolated pawn. And if you're not able to get rid of this isolated pawn or create some counterplay with that isolated pawn, the thing is that if you go into the end game, this is going to be a weak pawn which could be captured, and yes, your position would absolutely crumble. So you have to be careful. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, but at the end of the day, you will get some decisive results. So here after castles, position is absolutely fine for both of the players. But here after bishop to g2, we have bishop to e7. Castles now, castles, bishop to g5, c captures, knight captures, h6 now, pushing the bishop back to e3. Bishop to g4, and now you could go for a very nice line with h3, pushing the bishop back, bishop to e6, knight caps on e6, f captures, queen to b3, but here just queen to d7. And most likely, again, the position is very nice. You're covering this, so that's why here this could not be played, and queen is very nicely played. Rook can get into the game. You can pin some pawns here, and yeah, we will get a very nice game. And with these pawns, the thing is that you force black to create 3 pawn islands, and while on the other hand you have like 2 pawn islands, so the game goes into an end game. You could try to push on some technicalities, but still it's going to be a close call. But with these two players, I mean, these two players were very, very strong in their times. Here knight to b3 was played, but now just comes this bishop to e6, rook to c1, and rook to e8. Rook to e1 now, queen to d7, and just bishop to c5, rook a to c8, and just bishop captures. Queen captures e3 now, but just rook e to d8, queen to e2, bishop to g4, attacking the queen. Queen needs to move, but here instead of that, f3 was played. f3 is absolutely fine move in this position, it works, but just in this position. Here bishop to f5, but now just comes rook c to d1, knight to e5 now, targeting a lot of those squares, so you have to be a little bit careful. And now I understand that I'm moving through the game a little bit fast, but the thing is that I've already created a 5-minute video on one game, and you are not here to watch this game, but I'll try my best to give you as much learning from this game as possible, and I'll also reveal the names of the players as well. So here just g4 now. g4 can be played in this position with a very spectacular reason, because yes, it weakens your king side, but the trouble is that you can create some counterplay towards the king side. Here if you go for bishop to e6, just knight to d4, and that bishop I'll be able to target, and with that, I might be able to create one more pawn island. If you go for knight to c4, just h4 now. h4 is a brilliant move in this position, and this is an engine line. This did not happen in the actual game. Queen to b4 if you go for, then just rook to b1, g6, then just g5, h captures. You have to move knight to h5, and most likely here queen moves. Most likely I'm going to be pushing here, maybe get the bishop here, trying to just attack. That knight would need to move, and maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to create something in this position. But after rook c to d1, we have knight to e5, and just knight to d4 now, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back to g6, bishop to h3, and here just rook to c4, and now g4, finally going for it, but a few moves late. But now just trying to just get the rook out of the way, attack the b pawn, just put some pressure on it. But just now b3, knight to c6, queen to d2, and just rook to d6, rook to b6. And now here just going for knight c to e2, bishop to h7. Both players playing waiting moves, trying to figure out what to do in this position. Bishop to g2 was played, but now just rook to e8, knight to g3, and just knight caps on d4, just finally trading that piece. E captures, rook to e6 now, putting some pressure towards the e5. Rook captures was played, queen captures, and here rook to c1. So not trying to trade everything, because if you do, then the trouble will be that you're most likely going to be in a drawn position, and that's exactly what here play with the white pieces don't want. Here the c file is up for the taking, so why not grab it? Bishop to g6 was played, but bishop to f1, knight to h7, queen to f4, finally just trying to get the pieces active. And getting the knight there is not so much of a thing, because bishop captures. This bishop is not that great of a piece, while on the other hand your knight could be a really great piece. So here after knight to f8, we have rook to c5, bishop to b1 now, finally going after those pawns, but just a4. You play knight to g6, attacking the queen. Queen needs to move. Queen to f6 now, just putting some pressure on this pawn. And you could go for a move like bishop to b5 in this position, which is a crazy line, because here if you go for rook to d8, the trouble is queen to e3, knight to f4, now rook to c1, and here after a move like bishop to g6, mostly what's going to happen is gets centralized, and if you trade, then yes, this pawn becomes a pass pawn, but the thing is that you won't be able to do anything much with this. Bishop to d3, now bishop captures, knight captures, rook would move, most likely you'll be able to eliminate this as well, while white black will try to eliminate that pawn, and most likely this game would end in a draw. But here after queen to f6, king to f2 was played, and now we can see that bar shifting a little bit, and the thing is that the bar is not just shifting because here it's a complete blunder, but the thing is that slowly but surely here white's position is crumbling. So most likely here you have to be very, very careful. Knight to f4 was played, but here just a5, and a5 is the blunder that ruined it all. And I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try and find out the only winning move in this position, which wins the game rightly on the spot. So have at it. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move, and the move is the spectacular bishop to d3. And that's right, hey, there's nothing you can do, because hey, the trouble is, even if you go for bishop captures, this queen caps on d4, and that comes with the Sushin Suk here. And yeah, I'll be picking up the rook there, king to f1, knight caps on d3 first, rook to c2 if you go this, then just rook to e1, queen captures, knight captures. And even if you have two pieces for the queen and a lot of pawns, but still most likely those pawns I'll be able to capture with your king being in the center, there is nothing you can do. This game is completely winning. And with that, you're able to understand that this game would have been a perfect example of actually trying to just understand that here, even with the isolated pawn, sometimes it becomes a weakness, but sometimes it becomes a really good strength, and the game is still not over yet. But the thing is that you have to understand, with the Tarrasch you get many chances to be able to win this game. So what I'm trying to explain is that Tarrasch is not a game where you try to go for draws. Tarrasch is definitely a defense where you can create very nice chances even with the black pieces. So definitely that's why it's been played in the Queen's Gambit decline for so long. With the price of the isolated pawn, you get a lot of chances to be able to create with the bishop pair and the knight jumping in. Queen can get inside the position. You could try to create chances. You could even push the pawns on the queen side in some lines, and that's going to be it. With the with the Tarrasch defense, you can actually do a lot more than it seems. I can come up with opening preps and all of those things, but that's not something that I want to focus on, most likely because I can show a lot in the games being played rather than in preparations. And most people, don't even go for preparations. Hey, I don't think most people would be watching this game on this channel would be trying to actually just learn something to the absolute level. But if there is, and whenever there is, I would definitely be the one to come up with those preparations as well. And there are a lot of ideas in Tarrasch. I could show you many lines, many games from the past, many blunders, many mistakes, and many things other than that. But here the thing is that even if you go for knight to f5 in this position, which was played in the game, here queen to g5, and your position just completely collapse. Here knight to e3 was tried again, but just queen to h4 check, and queen is infiltrating. King to g1 was played, but here just bishop caps on f1, and it was on this move, on just move 41, that player with the white pieces, who is none other than the Grand Petrosian, in an insanely strong grandmaster. And with the black pieces, we have the former world champion, which is Boris Spassky. So this is the game. Yes, this is the game from World Chess Championship, which happened with Tarrasch Defense. So definitely an opening which can give you a lot of amazing results. And why Petrosian resigned in this position is basically, even if you capture this check comes, you don't want to, believe me, you don't want to go under the shadow of the rook. So here, once you go back, queen captures here would be putting pressure on the knight, and your position would completely collapse. So that's why here he resigned the game. And I was thinking about covering this game and the entire series after, because I'm covering the games of World Chess Championship that happened, the Mikhail Tal and Mikhail Botvinnik one. So there would be one or two more here before I come to this. But yeah, I was thinking about covering it there, but I would be covering it there as well with in much more depth. But here I just wanted to show you this game to tell you that Tarrasch is definitely a one opening to watch out for, because your opponents could and play this, and if you know this, then you would definitely outplay them. So yeah, this was the game. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be coming back with such amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon. Thank you very, very much for watching.